Welcome to Orange and Blue Daily, the best of all Broncos all the time. Here's Justin Adams.
I'm Justin Adams with Justin and BK, and I'm here with the smoothest man in the media business. That's right, Jim Trotter, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, and also with the NFL
Fake
Network.
news.
Right?
Fake news.
As we're here at Radio Row, Jim. First of all, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure,
always.
man. My pleasure.
You have one of the biggest distinctions. Let's put it honest. In Broncos country right now, is you have the opportunity to present Mr. B, Pat Bowlen, to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Huh?
I mean, I'm just putting all the pressure on you, brother. You're smooth, man. Let me ask this, Jim. Why did you want to take this on? Why did you want to be the guy to present Pat Bowlen?
Truthfully, I was asked to do it. Not that I would have had a problem doing it anyway. Typically what happens with the Hall of Fame is the person from that region or that city presents the candidate. But in this case, because I'm on the subcommittee, the contributor category committee, they wanted someone from that committee to present him, and they asked me if I would, and I was more than happy to do it because I think he's more than deserving. So typically Jeff Legwald would do it, and he's going to help me put together the presentation on it as well. So it's a lot of responsibility. I don't take it lightly, and I just try and give each man his due, his respect.
So usually, how does it work? Take us inside into the meeting rooms of how does a presentation for the Pro Football Hall of Fame work?
What will happen is, for instance, we'll do the contributors, and Mr. Bowlen will be first because they'll go alphabetically. And I will stand up. I will make at most a 5-minute presentation about why I believe he belongs in the Hall of Fame. And then it is opened up to the rest of the voters for discussion. Anyone have any concerns, any issues, anyone of support, those sorts of things. And we do that until those who want to be heard are heard, and then we move on to the next person. And once that's done, with the contributor category, it's just a yes or no vote. So we will vote yes or no on each candidate, the other being Gil Brandt, and they must receive 80% of the vote to be inducted.
Wow, that's a big vote. I mean, easily Pat Bowlen should be there, but I always hear this story. People always say, when you look at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the guys that are there, you can't tell the story of the game of football without them. When you look at Pat Bowlen, why is he one of the guys that you can't tell the story of pro football without him?
Oh, I'm not sure we have enough time, but you think about his contribution to the game and his impact on the game, whether we're talking about Monday Night Football, which he was so instrumental in having, whether or not we talk about labor peace, which he was so instrumental in helping during that period. And we've seen the dangers when there is not labor peace with what's transpired during the last lockout. You talk about success on the field, all of the Super Bowls, the championships, those sorts of things. Once you start putting it all together, his resume speaks for itself. He not only was someone who made his franchise great, but helped make the league great.
Without a doubt. And not only Pat Bowlen is one guy who's going to be voted this weekend, but you also have 4 other Broncos as well. Steve Atwater, John Lynch. You also have Tala and Champ Bailey as a first-time nominee. When you look at those
one way
guys,
or another, some Denver folks should be happy.
Somebody's going to be happy and somebody's going to be upset. I'll put it that way because, well, we all know, all 4 definitely deserving of being a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Let's start with Steve Atwater. When you look at him, why is he a guy who should be a Hall of Famer?
Oh, man, Steve was an impact player during his time. And the unfortunate thing for Steve is, from my perspective, is people want to compare him to today's game. You have to apply context in these discussions. When you go back to when Steve was playing, he was a guy that offensive coordinators put up on the board and said, we have to account for him. Back then they had free and strong safeties. The strong safety was the enforcer. There were few guys who were as impactful as Steve was on that back end. So from my standpoint, when you look at the game back at that time, Steve was one of the dominant players of his era, and that's why I think he is deserving of this candidacy.
You could say the same about John Lynch as well. Now he didn't play a lot with the Broncos, but he did have a big impact for the time that he was there.
The thing that's interesting about John, we look at him as a big hitter, which he was and whatnot. But when you talk to, for instance, I had a conversation with Derek Brooks, and he says people want to talk about John simply as a Tampa 2 safety. He said when he went to Denver, he played in a completely different defense and was still a Pro Bowl player and an impactful player. I think that should help John going forward because I think, unfortunately, there are so many folks who just look at him as a Tampa 2 and say, where are the interceptions, where are this? Because they're trying to compare him to the Ed Reeds and the others. which to me is stupid. They're different types of players but can still have a similar impact or the same contribution in terms of impact on a game.
Yeah, definitely. And then Champ Bailey, because we could talk about Ty Law, but he, let's be honest, he had a cup of coffee, longtime Patriot, also deserving. But Champ Bailey was one of those guys. I mean, all the Pro Bowls that he had and the effect that he had in the mid-2000s at the quarterback position was just ridiculous.
No, it's no question, but this is what's so hard when you get in that room and you have this discussion. For instance, on the reveal show where the finalists were announced, we had a little exercise where I said to the other guys on the set, look at the 15 names and give me your 5. And so they gave me their 5, and each of them had, the 2 of them had Champ Bailey, Ed Reed, and Tony Gonzalez. And so I said to them, can you tell me why Champ Bailey over Ty Law? And it was interesting to see they really didn't have an explanation for it. And so when you look at it, Ty played fewer games, but had as many interceptions, had more rings. They changed the rules because of how physical he was. And that's not to say I'm saying that Champ shouldn't go in over Ty Law, because you vote on the best 5, regardless of position. If we felt there were 5 defensive backs who deserved to go in, you put 5 defensive backs in.
Right.
But I always like to have this discussion with folks and say, how did you come to this conclusion in terms of how you vote? And that's what we do in the room, because I'm telling you right now, they were both great cornerbacks. Yeah. So how do you differentiate between the 2?
Well, you have guys like you voting them in. So with that being said,
it's hard to do.
Well, it is hard, but that's why you're in the room. With that, only 5 guys will get in. Then you have obviously your contributors. Your prediction on who would be the 5? Would you say?
I can't do that.
You can't do that? Okay.
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, we've got coaches who are deserving. You know, Don Coryell's deserving. Tom Flores is deserving. I'm shocked Tom Flores isn't in already. It's just, I try not to go in with a preconceived idea. I want to hear the discussion. I want to hear the debate. And look, I'm not going to sit here and be foolish and say, man, I have to hear the debate on Ed Reed or I have to hear the debate on Tony Gonzalez. They were so far, in my opinion, above people at their position during their generation that it becomes easier to make that call. Where it's more difficult is when you have great players at the same position, whether we're talking Ty Law and Champ Bailey or whether we're talking offensive line with Kevin Mawai, Steve Hutchinson, Alan Faneca. Now let's have the discussion about these guys, because they're all great players and they're all deserving, so how do you choose one over the other?
All right. That's a great question. Well, I do leave you with this one before we do go. Now, we're here at Super Bowl 53, Radio Row. We have everybody here. Yeah, I'm asking for a prediction. We can't get a Hall of Fame prediction, but I need a game prediction. What do you have?
My game prediction, I see the Patriots winning. I think their experience in this game, I think they have the greatest quarterback of all time, the greatest coach of all time, and I just think having been here, there's going to come a key moment where that play has to be made, and they'll be the one to make it.
Should be an exciting game here at Super Bowl 53. Jim, always a pleasure to have you on with us.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Thank you so much. You got it.